Hello, it's Tony on a wet day outside a pub. It's called the Wymering, and it's supposed to be closing soon, but it's got a fantastic history. I'm talking to Richard Palmer. Richard, hello.
Hello, Tony.
Thank you for inviting me out on such a lovely day to talk about the Wymering, which I think is closing soon, isn't it?
It's under development at the moment. The planners have put an application in to basically demolish the building. It's just running as a pub at the moment, but it will close if they go ahead.
Do you know why it's closing? Is it just that there's not enough people in here drinking?
I think that's the state of play with most of the pubs locally and nationally. There aren't enough customers in there to keep it as a viable business, so I think that's why the Punch Taverns sold it to Backers Limited developers.
The problem is that pubs are closing down, and this one will probably be gone soon, but they're not just pubs, are they? They're not just buildings. They're almost community centres.
Yes, very much so they are. I've been looking at some history behind the pub, which opened in 1937 to support the recently developed Isle of Wight estate, which was built in 1936, which is where I live.
I tell you what, we're standing in the rain. You live just up the road, don't you?
I live next door.
You live next door. Right. Can we just pop to your house and continue our conversation in there?
OK, that would be good.
Right, we'll be back with you in a moment, listeners.
See you later, alligator.
See you later, alligator. After wild crocodile. See you later, alligator. After wild crocodile. Can't you see you're in my way now? Don't you know your temper style?
Oh, here we are, back again. Now, he does indeed, Richard does indeed live next door to the pub. What a fantastic place to live. Your house is lovely. Can you tell me about the house? Before we talk about the pub anymore, the house, when was this built?
This was built in 1936. It's part of the Isle of Wight estate here in Wymering. And it was just a year before they decided to have the pub there to support the estate. So, yeah, it's a lovely area to live, yeah.
Did you just move into it sort of completely cold, or did you have relatives or parents that were here before?
I used to live in Paulsgrove, which is not too far away from here. And I've always liked the area, so I think it was about 6 or 7 years ago I decided to buy a house here. The interesting thing about this house in relation to the pub is the first owners were called Mr. and Mrs. Early. And I've got the records of the wage slips from the pub from 1952 to 54. And there was a Mrs. M. Early in there, so that's really fascinating. And I'd really love to find out if there are any relatives of theirs. Obviously, that it was a long time ago, so hopefully they'd have grandchildren or something, and that would be great if I could hear from those.
And actually, one of the things that I'm here for today is to try and get our listeners to come up with their memories of the pub, and presumably just this little area as well. Yeah,
I have an interest in family history, and from that you can develop to the history of your local area. You can also find out who's lived in your house going back many years. So let's come back to the pub then. It was built to really cater for the people that had moved from Portsmouth to the Isle of Wight estate. Were there shops built as well? Not as far as I know here. That's the only community building here. There's a lovely old church just across the road, and there's the Wymering Manor, which is the oldest house in Portsmouth, I understand. So that's the community, and there's a little park just down the road, but that's all we've got for the community here. Right. And are there any people living here now that were originally here when the places were built? I attended the church panto not long ago, and I spoke to a chap who he was born in 1936 in one of the houses opposite the pub, and he told me all about his memories as he was growing up. In the war, apparently they had this big machine outside which they turned this handle, and all this black smoke went up into the atmosphere to stop the planes and the bombers bombing the area, because they were worried about the lovely old church and obviously the Wymering Manor, as well as the pub and the residents. So there's that fantastic story. And from the library I've got it's like an aerial shot of the area, of the whole of Portsmouth, and there's little dots of where all the bombs landed. And interestingly, around our area here, there are very few bombs landed here. So I think that machine did its job. I don't know if that's something that happened all over, but I've not dug that far, and I'd love to hear any more stories like that.
I've never heard of that machine. So, listeners, if you've got any memories of this black smoke machine, just contact the station. We'll give you the telephone numbers a little bit later, and we'll pass everything on to Richard. So, Richard, tell me about the history of the actual pub, the Wymering.
Yes, the Wymering Arms was built in 1937, as I said, to support the local estate. Originally, it was under a brewery called Portsmouth United Breweries, which got bought out by Brickwoods, and then in turn Brickwoods got bought out by Whitbreads. And I've looked at Brickwoods, some of their old archive documents, and found some very interesting things. From 1939 I found how much beer they had in the pub at the time, and it's the ledger of beers and wines and spirits, etc. So I've got that, and I've also found the wage slips for about a 3 or 4 year period.
Was it a popular pub?
It was a very popular pub in years gone by, and people are sending in photos and memories of when they would hold functions there, such as weddings and baptisms and 21st birthdays, etc. But of late, it's as all pubs, it's not doing so well and isn't really viable as a pub now. But people have got such great memories of the past, and those are the memories I want to cherish and save for future generations, because we'll lose them.
Yeah. You've recently had a piece in the Portsmouth News, haven't you, about looking at the history of the Wymering Arms. Tell us about the article.
The News has taken on board memories, because they have a section Remember When, and they do lots of local history stories, and they've taken the story to heart and really behind us. Some readers have sent in some interesting pictures. One from the Legg family, whose parents married there in 1956 and had their function there. Another one was from the Perkins family, and the Perkins family were the landlords. Mr. and Mrs. Perkins were the landlords, and their daughter was one of the barmaids there, and I have a copy of their wage slips with what they were earning and all the staff that were working there.
What were they earning? So I'm just looking here at the wage slip, and the landlord was on £2 1 and twopence a week. That was in 1952. So a good wage there for the landlord. Do you reckon he spent it most on beer? Anyway, listeners, look, if you've got any memories of the Wymering Arms, it's in Medina Road, and it's sort of down by the church. Any memories, however small, please do let us know, and we'll pass your memories on to Richard, and maybe we can produce a whole programme just about your memories of the Wymering Arms. What else you got here, Richard?
Okay, I found the summary of stock on hand on the 29th of March 1938, and it tells how much bulk beer they've got, how much bottled beer, how many cigars.
Actually, what I find interesting is the price that they paid and the price that they were charging. So they've got bottled beer, and they've bought £9 10 and 6 worth of bottled beer, and they would sell that at £18 18 and 4 pence. So they're making 100% profit on that. That's fascinating. What else we got here? Mineral water. They bought £1 2 and 10 pence worth of mineral water, and they will sell that for £2 3 and 11. So fantastic markup on some of this stuff. Where are they buying from? They're buying from 104 Great Russell Street in London, and it's... What's the company that's selling the beer? Can we tell?
Oh, I don't...
It's in very, very faint print, isn't it?
Pollen Co.
Right, yeah. Tell us about the campaign that you've got going.
Okay, yeah, this campaign is to stop the developers demolishing this lovely building, which we feel adds to the character of the area. And as part of that, people have written in their objections. Before we started our campaign, there were 6 objections that you can see online at the council site. once our campaign was in full flight, we got 130 objections. So I think they have to sit up and take notice.
Now, these 130 objections, they're not people that are going drinking in the pub, are they? They're just people that that don't think the place should be pulled down.
One or two people that drink in the pub have sent in objections, but on the whole, it's residents in the area that like the feel of the area, the 1930s feel. And some of the area was built in 1920s as well.
So have you got any ideas of what the pub could be used for if the shell was still there? What would they do with the inside?
The developers were in talks with the local or co-op store to put a co-op there, but I think they pulled out for, I don't know what reason that was, but I'm now in talks with co-op to see if they can rethink their plans. That would be ideal for all the residents. There are elderly residents, there are young families here, and to have a store local would be ideal. I met this poor old lady in a local Tesco's last night. I went to get my shopping. She was sitting on the chair in Tesco's at the back of the shop. She dropped a £1 coin on the floor, and she was struggling like this trying to get it, and no one was there, and I just went over and helped her. And she had one of these free wheelie buggies with her shopping in, so I had to assist her right from the shop to the taxi, basically. And she's quite frail and has lived in the area, she tells me, for 40 odd years. And I just feel that she'd had to struggle all the way to Cosham to get her shopping, when if there was one on the doorstep, she could use that.
Yeah. Now, if people are not using the pub so much, is there enough customers for a shop?
I've spoken to an awful lot of people in the neighbourhood over the last month. They're all for having a local store, or if not a local store, then something for the community, not just more housing, really. I think Portsmouth's packed with housing, and a local survey says where there's more population crammed into a small area here than there is in, for instance, London.
So you don't really mind what they do with it as long as the building is kept as is?
No, if they decide not to put a local community store or something community use, then they could easily convert that into lovely flats. I would love the idea of having an elderly residence flats there. That would be perfect, and
like a nursing home or something like that.
There's a nursing home just behind us where we are now, and that's been there for many years, and that's part of the conservation area as well as the church in the Wymering Manor. Jubilee House has been there for many years, and that's a nursing home run by the NHS. But I was thinking maybe retirement flats or something or such. There are lots of elderly people living here in 3 or 4 bedroom houses that want to downsize but don't want to move off to wherever to get a retirement flat. How ideal will it be for them just to be in the same estate that they always lived and have neighbours around? So that was my idea, but I don't know whether that would be possible.
You do have a website, don't you?
We're on the website about my area /Portsmouth, and if you type in Wymering, you can find different articles that we've got on that site there. Okay,
what we'll do is we'll put a link to your website from the front page of our website. So listeners, you'll be able to find that by going to the front page of angelradio.co.uk, or you can go straight to
www.aboutmyarea/Portsmouth.co.uk.
Brilliant, and just type in Wymering. Fantastic. Thank you for inviting me out of the rain into your gorgeous home here. And listeners, now, you've heard about the Wymering Arms, you've heard about the Wymering area, the Isle of Wight estate. It's up to you now. Drag up some of those old memories. Give us a call. Free phone 0800 014 1955. Or you can call us on 02392 481988, or you can go to our website and click the email studio button, email us with your memories, or write to me, Angel Radio, 17 Market Parade, Havant, PO91PY. Let's have some of your memories of the Wymering Arms, the Isle of Wight estate, and if you knew anybody that we've mentioned, if you had any link with any of those, we'd like to hear from you. Thank you, Richard.
Thank you very much, Tony.